4 minutes to 10 p.m. here in Australia. It has been an extremely long day for me, but we're going to get stuck into our live streaming this tonight. Got a few things to cover, so I'm just going to set up my laptop and everything. So while I'm doing that, if you comment below where you're from and give us a thumbs up that you can see and hear everything going on okay, and then we'll get stuck into the live streaming. I know that some of you are probably just waking up in the US and some of you are just about ready to go to sleep, and I know that a couple of you are watching the tennis. So yeah, so we're going to get stuck into it, and I want to cover a few things, so I won't keep you up too late for us that are in Australia. We've got Speedway happening here in Kingaroy, so you might hear some loud engines revving in a couple of minutes. I think they've got their last race in the next 10 or 15 minutes, so that's still going on. Yeah, so we're going to talk about the scant quarter-inch seam allowance versus the true quarter-inch seam allowance. We're going to be talking about threads as well and how that makes a difference to your patchworking. A couple of items that I have mentioned in the YouTube tutorial that I put up about how to set your scant quarter-inch seam allowance. So I'm going to talk about where you can get them from, and I also got a new product in this week that I haven't tested yet, but I'm very curious to know if any of you have tested it, so we'll cover that as well. We're also going to talk about some of the up-and-coming classes that I've got going on here at Darvanalee Designs and also over at Alisalu Designs in Nanango. We done a lot of planning today. That's where I was. So I spent the day with Sylvia, and we've planned out the next from March through to June for the classes. I also want to talk about the YouTube schedule and how it may change from time to time because I've got a young family and whatnot. So I can see that Leah has joined us, and Valerie. Good morning, Valerie, and hi, Leah. You're in Queensland, so you're on the same time schedule as me. Good to see you in here. Yeah, I've noticed a few other people are giving thumbs up and everything, so everybody's here. I'm still just waiting for my computer to load. Our internet's a little bit slow. Oh, and Beck was saying, Beck just lives around the corner from me, and she was saying she didn't even realise Speedway was on until she heard it. I said, well, I can tell you now, Beck, you'll hear a lot of it over the next couple of days because it's the long weekend, and I think it goes for 3 days this weekend, because tomorrow being Australia Day, woohoo, Australia Day! So yeah, it's going to be a bit noisy up this end of town. You get to hear it, especially if the wind is blowing in this direction. The noise just comes right on in. Brendan loves it. That's my husband. He loves to hear the sound of the V8s and whatnot, and he goes off to sleep to it. Me, on the other hand, not so much. Alrighty, so we've just hit 10 o'clock and we're going to get started. So I can see that there's a few people in here today. Alrighty, so the one thing I want to cover is the scant quarter-inch foot. Now, a couple of people have said that they've got them for their machines and everything like that, but what do you do if you don't have it for your machine? Well, basically I did, on Tips and Tricks Tuesday, I did up a quick tutorial on how to set your machine up, and you can see the difference between a true quarter-inch and a scant quarter-inch. So basically what happens when you're sewing with patchworking and you've got a lot of stuff going in, so like a 9 patch or something like that, you're better off using a scant quarter-inch as opposed to a true quarter-inch. The reason being that when you fold everything over, you start to lose a little bit of fabric, and the thread makes a difference. So if you sew a couple of threads different, like a little bit smaller, it actually compensates for that, and you don't end up with those wonky 9 patches and that everybody's been getting. So while you are having some issues with that, it will take a little bit of time to get the grasp of keeping to that scant quarter-inch. So you haven't done anything wrong. It just comes down to being accurate. And the way I set it up, while some people may not agree with how I've set it up and they say that you need to do it a different way, the way that I've set it up is the way I was taught, and it's never let me down. So I don't tend to have as many issues with wonkiness and whatnot. So a perfect example is to a couple of days ago, a lady inboxed me and she had all her pieces together and her half square triangle was slightly bigger than her 9 patch. Well, that actually comes down to the fact that maybe a scant quarter inch seam allowance wasn't used. So a little bit of fudging was required to get that together, but if you keep practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing, you will get better at it and it will become like second nature to you. When you use thicker threads as well, that can play a big role in your seam allowances and all that sort of stuff. So for those that are using Gutermann thread is quite thick compared to your Aurifil and your bottom line and all the rest of it. Now for me, I personally like to use a 50 weight thread, but I'm also used to my scant quarter inch and I've adjusted it accordingly. So if you're not used to using a scant quarter inch and then you're using a thicker thread, you may not be getting that true scant. So maybe go for a thinner thread than a Gutermann if you're using that. Or Metla's another good one to use. It's quite a fine thread. I use Aurifil when I've got it. I use Metla, and I also use, if I've got a lot of pieces going into a quilt block, I will actually use a 60 weight thread. And I never really questioned it before until we started doing this block of the month. And it wasn't until I asked the right questions to the right people and they were like, oh yes, that definitely does make a big difference. So if you're still having issues, maybe if we try these different things, and as I said, it's a learning experience for me because I never even factored in that having lots of little squares going into it, that you really do need to use a finer thread. So give it a go and let me know during the week on if you've made a bit of a difference. Maybe have a bit of a practice with a 9 patch using those smaller squares again and seeing if they go together better for you. So yeah, so that would be my suggestion for you this week. Give that a go with a thinner thread than what you've been using and see if that makes a difference for you, and if it does, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. So the other thing that I wanted to cover, a question came up, and it's an age-old debate. Do I wash my fabrics or do I not wash my fabrics? Well, for me, I don't wash my fabrics. It's just another step for me, and I'm already time poor as it is, and I really don't have time to wash my fabrics and then get them into the dryer or hang them out in the clothesline. I just don't have time for that. So I can honestly say I have never washed my fabrics, ever. So, and there's two schools of thought. Some people say, yes, you must wash them all the time and prepare them and everything like that. But with the modern way of making fabrics these days, and I'm pretty sure that I posted into this group the cotton and steel video of how their fabric and how it's produced, and they actually touch on this, on the washing of the fabrics in the factory where it's made, and how they wash it until it pretty much, you can just use it. It doesn't need to be washed. You don't need to pre-shrink it. But in saying that, there are some fabrics out there that aren't too flash, that do need to be washed. And I've got a perfect example of a bolt of fabric here, and I often say to ladies, if your fabric feels like this, then you thanks Beck, I did post it, did I? Awesome. I might go and look for it a bit later and bump it up so people can watch it as well. I've got a perfect example of a bolt of fabric here in the store, and I've had it here for quite some time. But when ladies come in and ask me that question about washing fabrics, I tell them that I don't wash, never have since I started patchworking. But the bolt of fabric that I have here, I would definitely wash it, because you can still feel that there is dye and it hasn't been washed as much as another, like, fabrics that are sitting beside it. So it's a really good way to show ladies, like, you can feel it's a little bit stiffer. It feels looks a little bit shiny to look at. You can definitely feel that there is a chemical in it, as opposed to other fabrics that I've got here. and that particular fabric is like $12, $13 or something, and my more expensive patchworking fabrics like my cotton and steel that I've bought for myself, or even stuff that I've got on the bolt from Moda and stuff like that, to feel the comparison is amazing. Like, you can really feel that there is still chemical and dye and everything in the dark blue fabric as opposed to the other ones. So if you do come across a fabric that feels like that, or you're not too sure, the one thing that everybody recommends is the colour catchers. So these are from Woolworths, and for those that live in Kingaroy, yes, they do we can get them here in Kingaroy in Woolworths. They're in the laundry aisle, and they are, I think they were $4.50 or $4.95. So you can get them at Woolworths. I don't know about every Woolworths store, but you can definitely get them here in Kingaroy, and a lot of people do also get them from the chemist as well. These are great. When I wash a quilt for the first time, even though I haven't washed my fabrics or anything, I'll chuck that in. I'll chuck some of these in. There are other methods that you can use from, you know, our grandma's days and all the rest of it, but these are easy. You just chuck them in and they just catch. They do work. They work amazing. Like, you wouldn't think that they would, but they do. So that's what I recommend to ladies. If you don't want to wash your fabrics first off, I recommend that you get these, and when you wash the quilt, or even give a packet of, if you're giving the quilt away, go buy a packet. It's like $5 is all it's going to cost you, and give it to the person that you're giving the quilt to, and then that way they've got them there. So when they're ready to wash the quilt, they've got it. So, Leah's saying that she uses them. Hi Cheryl, thanks for joining us. You made it. the tennis kept you awake. That's good. So Leah's saying that she uses them and they're really great. So yeah, so that would be my recommendation. If you don't wash your fabrics, when you go to wash the quilt, use your colour catchers and you'll be good to go. And if you're giving the quilt away, just go buy a packet, give it to them and say, look, when you wash the quilt, you need to put a couple of these in, and then they'll be right. They won't be disappointed, just in case that fabric does run. Okay, so yeah, I definitely recommend those. So some of the other methods that I've heard is vinegar. I'm not too sure about that. I've never tried it. I will probably have to do a little bit more research on that. Some other people have said salt as well can stop your dye from running. Again, I've never used it. I've just used the colour catchers because it's Good morning, Nikki. How are you? You just got your kids off to school? Awesome. We're just going to sleep, actually. No, after this, we'll be all getting tucked into bed here in Australia. So, yeah, so that's my thoughts on washing fabrics and all the rest of it. I've just never done it. And even the people that taught me how to do patchworking and whatnot, they didn't really do it either. I think there was one lady that I came across that did. But in saying that, if you were garment making, then yes, you need to pre-wash your fabric. So if I was making a skirt or I was making a dress for the girls or something like that, depending on what I was using, yeah, I would wash the fabrics definitely then, because you need to, because if it does shrink, you've made a garment and then you wash it and it shrinks, then it's not going to fit them. So if you're going to make a dress or something like that that's a little bit snug and all the rest of it, yes, then definitely wash your fabrics. But for patchworking, not so much. The other thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about was the YouTube schedule. So the calendar went up for February. You see that I have, and the Facebook schedule as well. So I've got a few live streaming planned, and I'm trying to mix it up and move it all around. So for those that are at work in America, when I do it in the morning, they don't get to see it, and then there's you know, people from the UK that don't necessarily get to see it when I do it at 10 o'clock in the morning. So I'm going to try and mix it up a little bit. There's also people here in Australia that are at work, so they don't get to join in either. So I've tried to mix it up as much as I can. This will be the earliest that I do it for the United States. So I think in a lot of places it's about 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. roughly. And this will be the latest that I do it here in Australia, because I'm normally in bed. Oh no, Elizabeth can't get into the live stream. Just bear with me for a second. I'll just answer this for her. not too sure why she can't get in. She should be able to just see it. Okay. Trying to get into the live stream but can't still, but just a still pick and can't get in. Okay, I'm just going to let her know that she needs to refresh. If someone else is talking to Elizabeth in the group, they can maybe tag her in case she can't see this. To refresh. Alrighty, so yeah, so I'm just going to try and mix it up as much as I can, and that way it'll be fair for everybody, and everybody will get to participate, and some won't at some times, and then other people will be, and so we can hopefully get a really good mix of what's happening on the everything. So I've also got classes and all that, the videos that I've got up there. So basically I've got the yarn monogram, and then I've got the scrap rope, and I've got the block of the month for February. So I'm going to try and do 4 projects a month, and sometimes I may, for time constraints, I may not be able to do that, but I am definitely going to give it a try, and so I can try and keep up with it. I've introduced Tips and Tricks Tuesday, so in the Tips and Tricks Tuesday you're going to see a lot of like what I did with the setting up the scant 1/4 inch, and like just some speed piecing and all that sort of stuff. Hopefully I can do a couple a month, and we can get some tips and tricks. If you've got any suggestions, I would love to hear them. Oh, everybody's starting to wake up. Hi Jill, hi Hilary. Yes, family does always come first for me, most definitely. That is one thing that I do put first. My kids come first. They're my husband. Well, actually, I come first, because if I don't look after me, then basically no one gets looked after. So, yeah, so basically I will definitely try to keep that schedule, but just be aware that sometimes it may change. The block of the month will definitely go up, because I actually record that pretty much within a week or two of the last block. So I'm actually recording that this weekend, and so I will have that, and it's just basically I upload it to YouTube, and I have it as a private video until the day that it needs to be released, and then I just change it from private to public, so then it's there, and the blog post is there already done as well. Linda has already tested the next block for me, and I can honestly say it's beautiful. It looks lovely. I love it. She's actually made 2, so she done it once and then she tested it again. We have a few suggestions. She has a few suggestions for me to make it a little bit easier. The one thing that has come up again this week, that some people have overcut. So again, it comes down to the sheet that you get and how to read it. So just excuse the little scribbles on it. This is just my note sheet. So for those that have cut extra, you've got 2 columns. You've got cutting diagrams, and then you've got patch count. So can you see that? That's your patch count. So I'm gonna okay, Cheryl, so this is for you. Okay, so basically what this is here, this is telling you what you're going to cut. Okay, so in the last block it was 3 1/4. Okay, and you're going to cut, it says to cut triangles. So what you do is, when you've got a triangle or you've got quarter triangles, what you do is you have a look at the patch count. So you can see here it's saying 12 white and 12 blue, okay, and they're triangles. So if you're going to cut a square and then you're going to diagonally cut that, you're going to get 2 pieces from each square. So you need to just divide that that number. So there's 2, divide the 12 and you get 6 squares. Okay, and it seems like a little bit of confusion, but it's just a little bit of math you've got to do before you start, and that'll cut down on the waste. And especially if you are struggling to have enough fabric and everything. So this is a square that you've got to cut, but you kind of get 2 triangles out of it, and a patch count is how many patches. So this 12 is these triangles just here. So if you're not sure on what to cut, just have a look at the corresponding letters, because they've got letters beside it. You can find it up here, and then you can count it on the coloured picture, because that's how every sheet comes. You'll have the alphabet pieces here, you'll have a colored piece here, you'll have a patch count here, and you'll have a cutting diagram here. All right, the next block, I'm still not going to show you. You can see on this one, see how it's a square, but then you've got to cut 4 triangles. So you only need eight patches. So realistically, you only have to cut 2 squares because you're going to get 4 patches from each square, which equals 8. So Cheryl, I hope that makes sense to you. If it doesn't, hun, just inbox me and I can try and help you. I can maybe do some FaceTime with you or something like that, and we can work it out together. So if you're not sure, just ask. And most of the people in the group actually know how to cut because we've gone through it a couple of times. So yeah, and if you see someone that's struggling as well, maybe you could give them a hand if you understand. Oh yeah, cool, you do. Awesome. Thumbs up. Excellent. So I'm glad I covered that for you. Okay, so Elizabeth's still having trouble. I really don't know what's going on there, Elizabeth. Try it again, and the same from the iPad and the laptop. I can't explain it. I've got 9 people in here. I'm answering questions. So that's helped you too, Valerie, because I think you were struggling with you had a bit of issue with the cutting as well on that. I'm glad we can sort that out together. And if you forget, that's okay. I'll probably go over it quite a few times because there's more and more people coming into the group. So yeah, we're going to get that question keep coming up. So if you do see that question pop up and you know the answer to it, ladies, by all means, please. And even if you want to do a little video for that person, you can actually upload a video to their inbox or something like that if they're struggling. If I'm not available or Linda's not available and you see that someone's just hanging out there, I would love for you to help that person out, because being a global group, we have so many different time zones and we can only do so much. And yeah, hard to... Okay, so Beverly is saying that it was had to close Facebook down and re-click on the link. Okay, can someone who's got Elizabeth on their friends list please message her and let her know, because I've got a bit of lag with my internet at the moment. I can try and send it to her. She says to give her love to everybody and she'll watch the rerun. So I'm going to just let her know that she just has to click on the link. Is that correct, Beverly? I'll just send this to her. Okay, so, alright, so some of the up and coming classes that I've got going on for those that are local or in Brisbane or north of us that would like to come along to classes. I teach classes in 2 different places here in the South Burnett, and I would love to see some people come and visit the South Burnett because, I'll just refocus that for you. We have lots and lots of classes here going on. I run classes every Friday here at Darvanalee Designs Studio. I'm a very small little studio that I have here where I do mostly long arming, and we have sit and sew classes every Monday, and on Fridays we have another block of the month which is different to this one. And we also have like a row by row starting this year, and we have bags, and we do mini quilts, and we do some crafting. I also do the same thing over in Nanango as well. I don't start there until March because they're in the process of moving their shop across the road. And so I go over to DDs Designs and I teach a few classes over there. We've got lots of lovely things planned. We've got some bags and purses. Some of the projects are similar to what I'm running here in Kingaroy. But if you are interested in any of the classes that we're doing, please do just send me an inbox and I can give you the information, times, dates and costs. Short of that, you can go to my quilting page, which is Darvanalee Designs Longarm Quilting Service, and that has, in the events tab, you will see all the events there, and that has everything that I've got coming up for the month of February. And they generally go up on the 20th of each month, around the same time that the YouTube schedule goes up. As of tonight, We have an opening at our sewing retreat in September. That a lady has to go in for knee surgery. She cannot get out of it. That's when they've booked it. That's when she has to have it, unfortunately. So she has decided that she's not going to come to the May one. She's going to come to the September one. So her spot has actually opened up. So if anybody is interested, basically just, send me an inbox. You can give me a call. There is an event over there. It has all the details of how to contact me on Darvanalee Designs Longarm Quilting Service page. And it's 320 from memory. Beck's saying she loves Nicole's classes when she can make it. We also have a Friday night class too that Beck often comes to, which is a good class for those that work. Yeah, so the retreat, there's a spot that's opened up. So it's not until the end of May, and yeah, if you're keen to come, we've got people coming from Townsville, Cairns, Canberra. Yeah, if you're keen to come, let us know. We can arrange for someone to pick you up from the airport, and we can arrange a sewing machine, and I will show you one of the things that we're doing, because one is actually a surprise and no one knows what that is. But we are actually making this bag at the retreat. It's a big bag. You can see that's a big bag. And basically it is what we're making. Oh, got a bit blurry. That's what we're making on the first day of the retreat. And you can see inside it has all these zipper pockets that you can keep your threads in. So I've got some threads in there, and then you've got 6 zipper pockets for all your stuff, plus the gap in between, and then a pocket at the back for scissors or whatever. You can fit a small cutting mat in there and a 6x12 ruler. So that is, I don't think you've actually seen the bag, have you, Leah? Because you're coming to the retreat. So that is the bag that we're making. It is it's a big bag. So yeah, this is what we're making at the retreat. So for those that are this is on the first day, and then we've got a mini quilt on the second day. Basically I do retreats for bag making and quilt making as well. So that is what's happening. So Beverly, you said that you were quite interested in coming to the retreat. If you're still interested in coming, we do have a payoff schedule for it, but I can give you a little bit of extra time if you need that. So if you're still interested, give me a hoy in inbox, because I've got you on the waiting list for the next one. I just couldn't remember whether you said you were busy or not. So if you're not and you want to come to the May one, a spot has actually opened up. So yeah, give me an inbox. But that's what we're making at the first on the first day. It is a big bag, but very sturdy. It's got a little bit of binding in it. It's got this big zipper in it. It opens right up. It's got a pin cushion, so you've got this sits nice and flat. You've got a pin cushion there. You've got spots to sit your tools and everything. Like I fit everything in here. I went to a bag making retreat in September, and I made this before I went to it. And I absolutely dumped all my stuff in it, and I didn't have a problem. It was all in the one place, and it was just awesome. So, and a lot of the ladies that are going to the retreat have actually seen me using it, and they have begged me to make it. So I figured, what better place than a retreat where we're not going to get disturbed, and we can just go for it. I can't show you what the mini quilt is, because that's actually a surprise for all the ladies, so, and it wouldn't be fair to show them, although I know that maybe a couple of them are on here and going, please, please, please show, but no, I can't. Yeah, so anybody that's interested, just give me a yell. And as I said, we've got another one in September, so if you can't make it to this one, the September one is going on sale. Actually on the first week of March it's going on sale, so keep an eye out for that one. Alrighty, so in the YouTube, onto the next thing. In the YouTube, I can comment, but the video won't work. Thanks for trying to help. Okay, no worries. Alright, Elizabeth, no worries. Sorry, couldn't get in. Okay, so in the video that I put up on Tuesday with using the sticky tape on the machine, a couple of people asked me, I did mention about removing the stickiness and whatnot off your machine once you take that tape off, or if you you use a tape that wasn't a low tack one and you end up with a little bit of stickiness on your sewing machine. Okay, here in Australia we have this product, okay, and I'll just bring it up. It's by Planet Arc, okay, and it's called Orange Power, and it dissolves goo. Basically, you just use a little bit and it takes it off. A lot of the ladies use this to remove this tackiness from their Brother Scan and Cuts mats, and then they remove all the goo off the mat, and then they re-tack it down with a tacky glue and whatnot. But this is what I use, and it is basically, I think it's like $4.50 or $3.50 from Woolworths, Coles, all of them have it. Anywhere that stocks cleaning products, hardware stores have it. Orange Power have a whole range of stuff. They have degreasers and all sorts of stuff, but this is what I use, and I have found that this doesn't damage my machine. Okay, so yeah, so it doesn't damage my machine. It doesn't leave any marks. It doesn't leave any residue. It doesn't make it sticky or anything like that. Beverly, if you're looking for a scan and cut tutorial, just leave a comment in my inbox and I will find the link for you. And it's a YouTube video and that I come across ages ago, so because I know you've got a scan and cut like me as well. Yeah, and I can send you the link and I'll show you how they retack it. It saves you a ton of money. Yeah, well, Valerie, I'm glad you brought that up. In the US, it's called Goo Gone, and I will put a link, once the video's finished, I will put a link there for you where you can get it from. It's very inexpensive, but it's wonderful stuff. It gets rid of all, like this one here says it gets rid of glue, gum, stains from most surfaces. You can use it to remove lipstick, crayon, tar, wax, chewing gum, fat buildup, and grease and oil. Blue tack, you know when you use blue tack and it leaves that little stain, you can use it for that as well. Awesome stuff for that. So if you're in a rental property and your kids have put up blue tack on the wall, use some of this after the posters have been taken down and you won't have any problems there. And you just put it on a cloth and then you just dab it and you leave it sit for a little while and then you just wipe it away and you're good to go. So that's the product. You can get that in Woolworths, Coles, or anywhere here in Australia. And Goo Gone is what it is called over in the USA. And I'm not sure what it's called in the UK. I'm still researching that. You probably have a similar product to Goo Gone. Alrighty, so that is what I recommend to get rid of any stickiness from your sewing machines, and it won't damage your machines. Don't get it down in your machine. By all means, be careful of that because it could do some damage. A question also while we're talking about machines, questions came up this week on what you should clean your machine with. Like the surface to get rid of dust and all that sort of stuff, and what sprays are suitable for your machines. I stock Singer sewing machines, and I always tell my ladies to get a microfiber cloth and go over it with that. If you have any sticky stuff, use the Goo Gone. And I rang a friend that once, I couldn't remember what she said that she used to use on her machine, and it was what the rep had originally told her to use, and it was Mr. Sheen of all things. You spray a bit on your microfiber cloth and you can wipe your machine down. I can't remember who asked the question, but someone asked it in the group. Yeah, you just excuse me, you just put a little bit onto your microfiber cloth and then rub your machine down. Mr. Sheen doesn't leave an oily residue on your machine. But for me, I don't let my machine get that dusty or dirty. I basically wipe my machine down every week, and every time I go to use it. Oh, so it was you, Beverly. So I couldn't remember who it was. So yeah, Mr. Sheen you can use on your on a microfiber cloth, and just give it, not a lot. You don't need to soak the cloth, just a quick spray, and that'll be enough to get all the dust off. Because you're living on the coast now, so Yeah, I do use a piece of batting as well, especially on my long arm, because I just find that there's batting, it just attracts the other batting. That's a really good point there, Jill. Thank you for that. Beverly, living on the coast, you need to be really careful with what you use on your machine, because you are exposing your machine to salt. So you want to be careful that it's not near a window or anything like that, because you just recently moved right near the beach, didn't you? Just be careful not to have it too close to a window where it can get exposed to like the sea breeze blowing the salt off the beach, because your metal components in your machine could start to deteriorate a bit. So if you can, make a cover for it and keep your machine covered at all times would be my recommendation. And if it's still getting dusty, then just use the Mr. Sheen. If it's got tack on it, use the orange power and you'll be fine. Now that's a cup. Yeah, that is my cup. I do things big. I have a coffee cup that's about this size and about the same circumference, and this is my drinking cup. So I only have to drink 2 or 3 of these today, and I meet my requirements. And I'm drinking a little bit of kombucha tonight, so getting some probiotics into my system, because I was quite ill at the end of last year. So I'm still trying to get myself back on track. So yeah. Alrighty, so another thing I wanted to touch on tonight, and then I'll leave it open for some questions and whatnot. I got a new product. I have been seeing this all over the internet in the last 2 or 3 months. Just before Christmas, it started coming up. It is called a needle punch set. And what I'm wondering if any of you have actually used it. So have you, like, I'm sure you would have seen these. They're all over Facebook, Instagram. I think I've seen this on Instagram first off, last November, beginning of November or something. And I thought, nah, it can't be that easy. And apparently it's to help with your hand embroidery and stuff like that. And you can do quilts, and it says on the back, it's a needle punching made easy. Unique, beautiful craft. Can be applied to almost any clothing. Yeah, so has anybody tried these? Valerie, has your sister used it? Hi, Wendy. Glad you could join us. At least someone's here to talk to. Okay, so Valerie, you're saying that she loves it, and does she use it all the time? So I'm thinking that I'm going to give it a go, and I'm actually going to, like, I only got it like 2 days ago. It came in the mail. I ordered it before Christmas, and it's taken this long with the Christmas break and everything. Well, see, that's what I thought, but Jill, I thought it was for rug making as well, but apparently you can use it for ribbon, like your satin ribbon work, and you can use it for just plain everyday, like, embroidery. According to the ad, yeah, you can use it for just about anything, and it's got different needle widths as well. Like, the needles are sharp as anything. Like, I touched one the other day, and it actually it made my finger bleed. Fibre fur, it looks like fur. Well, that's what I thought it looked like too. Like the chenilling type thing. Are you talking, Nikki? Are you talking about those quilts that look like they were called chenille quilts? But yeah. And Cheryl, your mum's got one, and she did ribbon work with it. Yeah, that's what I heard, that and Valerie saying your sister does use it regular embroidery sometimes. So Valerie, what does your sister mainly use it for? And Cheryl, your mum use it for ribbon work and little artworks. Okay, so people have seen it and they've been using it. I think Clover also has one too, and different threads, etc. Okay. Cheryl, does she do normal embroidery with it as well? Do you know? Because it's like, it's got all these different things. Like, I don't do hand embroidery. Like, if you tell me I've got a hand sew, it's like swearing at me. It's like you've just told me to get nicked. When I was a kid, Nikki's saying that when she was a kid, they had kits that had outlines of lions and animals, etc. And we did the punch yard through to make fur and the manes, and they called it needle punching then. Okay, because like I was told that she does embroidery pictures and pretty stuff on pillowcases and towels. Okay, so Valerie, she uses thicker thread in this, like a yarn and stuff, like a tapestry yarn, I would assume. And Nikki, the answer to your, like I was just seeing what you wrote up there. I know what you're talking about. I remember those sort of little kits because you could get them late 70s, early 80s. I had an experience with a few of those, but it was more, it looks a little bit more, I can't remember what the needle looked like, if it looked like that, or maybe I'm getting that confused with latch hook. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. So I'm going to give it a go, and I might actually do a video on it and put it up and see how bad I go at it. Because it's regular, heavier than regular, so it would be like a tapestry thread or something that she's using. Alrighty, cool, good to know. So, it's like what Punch and Judy sells. I'm allowed to write that. Good luck. Okay, cool, yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to give it a go and see what happens, and I'll keep you posted. I just wanted to know, like, if had anybody used one before, but I see a lot of you haven't actually used it yourself, but you know people that have got it and they've done different sorts of things with it. So, Valerie, would you be able to get any pictures of the stuff that your sister has made with it at all? Do you have any of that sort of stuff? And maybe you could share it with the group so we could see it. And if anybody else can get pictures of stuff that either your mum, Cheryl, or anybody else that's used one. Valerie says I still have stuff from the 70s. Yeah, I lost a lot of my stuff in floods and stuff like that. We get some pretty good floods here in Queensland and in some of the parts of New South Wales that I lived. So I lost a lot of my childhood craft projects. I had a lot of latch hook. I was right into latch hook as a kid when I was around 10, so around 1980. Yeah, and my grandmother was very encouraging of me getting into crafts and all the rest of it. My first sewing machine was a Holly Hobby sewing machine. What were some of your first sewing machines, ladies? Write it down, like type it down and let us know what your first sewing machine was. Valerie, if you can get some photos, that'd be great. I'd really love to see what she's done. That'd be awesome. Yeah, so my first sewing machine was a Holly Hobby, one that you rotated, and I think the first thing I made was a little like top for my for one of my teddies. Of course with the help of my grandmother and all the rest of it. But as I grew older, I got more into horses, so I didn't actually. I'm bringing back memories for Nikki. Latch hook, Holly Hobby. I know, it's showing our age now, aren't we? Yeah, so as I got older, I didn't stay in the sewing side of things, which I really regret, because my grandmother was actually a seamstress and that's what she did as a job, and I could have learnt so much from her. But because I ended up getting it right into horses and I just wasn't interested in being inside, I was a bit of a wild child and I liked to be on the back of a horse and riding through the bush and just being out in nature. So I didn't do much sewing, and sadly I didn't take up sewing full on until after she had passed away. Yeah, but I remember little things here and there I remember seeing, because I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, and I remember, you know, pillowcases and pants that I'll have a flashback sometimes. Someone will say something and I'll remember a pair of pants that she made me, and I can remember standing there when I was inside and actually watching her making it. So I have picked up a lot of stuff from just watching and whatnot, and I learned how to read patterns and everything, but I never learned how to translate that into actually making it into a garment, which I'm sad about in one way, but at the same time I wouldn't change anything that I've done. I've done a lot of crafting over the years of like sculpting and all that sort of stuff, working with clay and ceramics. I've done a hell of a lot of latch hook, because I used to do that I used to sit there during school holidays and make a pillow and stuff like that. I made a couple of rugs and all sorts of things. So I've done some cross stitch. I'm not real good at it. I've done hem embroidery. I'm not much of a hand sewer, but I've taken on the task of doing a quilt. It's the Dear Jane quilt, and I'm doing it all by hand piecing through paperpiecing.com. They had a row a month, and I think we've got 2 or 3 months to go, and then I've got all the rows, and I've done 4 blocks, and they're just a little block like that. But yeah, my first machine was a Holly Hobby, and I've just never looked back from there. And yeah, so has anybody else got any more questions or anything? Because I've waffled on for quite some time now. Is there anything that you want to know about the block of the month? Valerie was saying on her treadle machine that she sewed Barbie clothes when I was 6 or 7 years old on the treadle. That's awesome. I've got a 1921 Singer treadle, a black one, in a cabinet, and that's hidden in my room where the kids can't get near it, and that won't come out until they're all left home because they can't not touch things. And I use my 1951 Centenary. I got it reserviced. My husband found it for me. It was in well, what you would call a barn if you were in America. Here we call it a shed. It's out in the back shed. It was covered in dust. It wasn't working. I got my repair guy. He had it I got it back in August, and he had it up until October. And he serviced it all for me, and now it works great. And that's what I did the how to set your scant 1/4 inch seam allowance on the other day. So, and I use it all the time, and I mainly use it because it's a straight sewer, and I don't have the problem of when you're sewing and you're using triangles like we have been, where the tip of the triangle can get sucked down into your machine, and it can fray the corners, and that can really make some issues for your piecing later on when you're piecing it all together. So I've found that I can't get a different plate for the machine that I have, and I have a Singer Quantum L500, and it's like a semi-industrial one. So some of the ladies that are in the group can attest, that come to classes here, how fast I can go on that thing, and it shakes the table and carries on. But I do have that issue where the tip of my fabric gets sucked down into the feed dogs, and that's why I use a leader cloth on that, whereas I don't need to use the leader cloth on the vintage machine because it's a straight sewer, and it only has that tiny little hole where the needle goes into, so none of the fabric actually gets sucked down. So I'm really enjoying working on it, and as I said, I've got an awesome machine that's got all the bells and whistles. I don't have to worry about the scant 1/4 inch. The foot's like is a scant 1/4 inch and all the rest of it. But I'm just loving working on the Singer sewing machine because it's just taken some of those little issues of that newer machine out of the equation, and it is actually helping my piecing, and I'm really happy with that. So yeah, so I'm going to leave it there for now. If anybody's got any questions, you can just sort of post them up. I am trying to refresh my page, but it's taking forever. And luckily they didn't have too much of a loud race, so they didn't block me out with the Speedway tonight. All right. So I'm just looking here, some of the questions that are coming up. So Lynn, you use your mum's Singer treadle, and at 17 you bought your first Elna Lotus. I can't picture an Elna Lotus. I don't think I've actually seen one of those. Interesting. Okay, I'll have to go and have a little bit of a look after this and see what it looks like, because I cannot for the life of me picture it. But I'm so glad that everybody's joined me tonight. I hope that you've got a little bit of information out of this on different products and whatnot. If you've got any questions, please do ask, even after the live chat has finished. Just ask, because I go through all the questions, whether it'll be tonight or in the morning. I will go through all the questions. In 2 days, you will notice in the group that some of the posts I've actually turned comments off for, because it brings up that post and whatnot. So after 2 days of the live feed, I will turn the comments off, and then then basically what will happen is, if you want to find that video again, if it's got information in it that you want to recap, if you go over to if you're on a laptop, it'll be on your left hand side. You can see there's events photos, files, and videos. If you click on videos, all the live chats will be up in there because I'm saving them to the group because they do have snippets of information that you may require. If you do add anybody to the group, just let them know that there are live chats over there. So tell them to go back to the beginning and just have a look through the comments. Some of their questions will be answered. They won't be able to comment it on themselves, so they'll either have to make a post in the discussion, or they can send me an inbox. Basically, yeah, it's So Lynn, are you going to bring that one to the retreat? Will that sew through bags and everything like that? Because it's an older, like obviously it's a little bit older and a bit heavier. Can you just answer that question for me if you get a chance? Yeah, so if you add anybody to the group, just point them into the direction of the pinned post so they can see the rules. Let them know that there are live chat videos that have information about the blocks and whatnot. And if they can't find what they're looking for, they can always just inbox me. But what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to go back through the live chats and actually put a list of the relevant information in there. So it should make it easier for them to find the information that they're looking for. Yeah, I think that's about all that I can cover today. If just, again, practice that scant 1/4 inch and try and use a thinner thread. And I think that most of you will find that some of the issues that you had will be alleviated. You won't get that wonky stuff happening. And a lot of you really need to cut yourself some slack because there has been some beautiful blocks going up, and basically I can't fault them. I think they're beautiful and you're doing a wonderful job, and especially most of you haven't worked with small pieces before, so give yourself a pat on the back, because working with 1 1/4 inch squares for the first time is a scary and daunting situation, but you have done amazing. You should be patting yourselves on the back and give yourselves, you know, a big high five. And you know, and you can tell by everybody that's encouraging you. I mean, there's been some funny comments, like one lady put up that her block was very wonky, and I think it was Rebecca goes, "There's no wonk here," because we couldn't see the wonkiness. Like, you might be looking at yours, but when you're putting it up on the Facebook group, that you can't actually see a lot of the time what you're talking about. So don't be so hard on yourself. If we can't see it, once it's in a quilt, no one else is going to see it either. So yeah, like, don't be so hard on yourself. Give yourself a pat in the back. Cut yourself some slack. If you've never done small piecing before, you've done an amazing job. And if you haven't made the block yet, give it a go. It's not that scary. Just treat it like it's a big block. You're doing exactly the same thing, and use the tips that we've given you here in the last couple of weeks. And on that note, I'm going to say goodnight because it's almost 11 o'clock here and I need to go to sleep because I've got a big day tomorrow of sewing. So thank you very much for joining me. If you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please go over and subscribe. The more subscribers I get, the better off we're going. The more videos I can put up, and I can get to some of my milestones that I want to get to. Thank you so very much for joining me, because I know it is very early for some of you and also very late. And Valerie was shocked that she finished hers. Look, Valerie, you've done an amazing job. Even with everything that was going on and we were trying to sort out and whatnot, you did an amazing job. And on that note, I'm just going to say goodnight, and I will talk to you all soon. If you've got any questions, inbox me. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll talk to you again next week. I can't remember what the time is for next week, but I will have another live chat then. If you've got any questions, please shoot them to me, and I will endeavour to either answer them during the week or I will answer them in the live chat next week. Thanks again, everybody. Good night. Bye for now.